Hello and welcome to our special edition of Full Out Chats. I am your host and head cheerleading coach at Purdue University. I am Steve Solberg, and we are going to do our first ever YouTube live stream and our first ever Coaches Corner live show where I'm going to get some of my friends, some of my good buddies here in the industry to talk about some of the current events that are happening in cheerleading. And obviously, we're going to talk about the summer, kind of what is going on, what are game plans for colleges and things like that when it comes to tryouts. And we will go from there. So going to bring in our guest first, Ben Schreiber, Ohio State. Are you there?
How are we doing? Good evening.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show, Ben. Excited to talk to you.
Excited.
Have Mark Coleman, Morehead State. Mark, are you there?
Good evening. Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Very cool. And finally, we also have Tony Nash, Indiana All-Girl. Tony, are you there?
I am here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you again for doing this. We're excited to do our first ever live stream with 4 coaches. Very gentlemen, we're having a little fun here, maybe too much fun, as you can see, but we're going to get right into it and talk about kind of where we are in the summer and what our game plans are as programs. Obviously, kind of give you guys all different perspectives here. Obviously, Tony representing the Indiana All-Girl program, Ben representing Ohio State, which is a co-ed program, Mark, Division I for co-ed and all-girl, and then myself, co-ed all-girl, but for small co-ed for competition. So kind of giving everybody a little bit of a background of everything. And I think as we kind of get in, I think the first thing that we all want to kind of chat about is tryouts, is summer. How are we going to be doing our summer, basically, if anything? What can we do? What have our universities kind of been communicating with us? Because obviously everybody's different and everybody's kind of has a different perspective of how we're going to do things. So we're going to start with Ben Schreiber, actually. So Ben, you're in a different situation here versus us three, as Ohio State has a different type of tryout process, if you want to call it that way. So Ben, kind of what does Ohio State do for tryouts, and what is your game plan for the summer with the coronavirus epidemic that we're dealing with right now?
Yeah. First, Steve, thanks again for this opportunity. Excited to chat with all 3 of you guys, legends in the industry. I think this is gonna be a lot of fun, and as we get going tonight. But first, I'll just kind of talk about our plan for the summer. I actually had a head coaches meeting earlier today with all the head coaches at the Ohio State University, and Gene Smith, our athletic director, who works hand in hand super close with the NCAA, was able to provide a few updates. But really what a lot of people are hearing on the news is kind of what's out there is, the Big Ten Conference, which obviously 3 of us are a part of, is waiting like everybody else. Every school, university, in the country has different stipulations with when people are going to be able to return to campus, things like that. Currently, Ohio State, it's July 6th. So unfortunately, we had to cancel our April co-ed stunt and college prep clinic, and unfortunately the Ohio cheerleading combine that we kind of help run is also canceled for June. We're hoping to be able to reschedule that potentially later in the summer if that opportunity becomes available. But right now, probably like a lot of other people, we're doing Zoom meetings with our team, keeping them up to date with what's going on, making sure that they are staying up to date with their classwork, as they have about 2 or 3 weeks left in the semester. Definitely a unique challenge for all of them, finishing school all online. And kind of unique with us then for the summer that, we typically have a June practice week that we're not going to be able to have. So, but your first question is, how we select our team. And yes, we are different that the 2020-2021 season is the second year that our program has switched to a full recruitment method to select our team. We did that to kind of be in alignment with other varsity sports at Ohio State. We are considered a varsity sport at Ohio State. This is the second full season of that. So, not other teams don't, select their teams, their rosters through a tryout. They might have a walk-on tryout, but they select their teams through recruitment. So this is the second year that we've done that. It's a process that It still has a few kinks in it. There's still a few things that we're working out, but I've been very happy with how the process has gone over these last 2 years. There's still some new ways that we're looking to recruit. Obviously, we do have a limited recruiting budget. Travel as much as some of the major sports like football, men's and women's basketball, things like that. But one of the first things that we have is we have a online questionnaire that I encourage all people to fill out if there's any interest in our program. As you earlier said, we are just a large co-ed team. So our roster is about 16 males and 16 females. But filling out that recruit questionnaire, there's some questions that we like people to answer so we can kind of start to know their character, their personality. And then, there's a list of skills that we ask them to show. Some partner stunts, some tumbling preferred on a non-spring floor, as that's what we do in college, as well as some game day elements. We also, like most programs, host a lot of clinics throughout the year, which is a great opportunity for people to learn more about our program, interact with the student athletes on our team, and then a great opportunity for the coaching staff to take a look at people and start forming those relationships. Also throughout the year, we do make a few small recruiting trips to some gyms, maybe some high schools, different parts of the country. And then we do attend some of the bigger national competitions to, share information on our program and also to, meet with individual student athletes to, again, start forming that relationship with them.
I think I've kind of adopted a hybrid of that at Purdue. We're kind of doing a little bit of that, but we still do have the live tryout. Talking to my assistant, Nicole, and this is where I want Mark and Tony to chime in. For me, I found it very hard. It's a lot harder to do it all girl to select an all girl team that way, in my opinion, than a co-ed team. I agree with you. I usually have my co-ed team selected pretty quickly. I know who I want, but let's have Tony chime in first, kind of about your thoughts of doing a recruitment. Would Indiana ever, play with the idea of possibly doing that?
Steve, I mean, that's a very interesting question. I've obviously talked with Ben and yourself, about that process. I feel like it becomes a little bit more challenging on the all-girl front, just because, obviously you want to see people develop timing and be able to work with each other to make sure that they're able to be successful in timing and executing skills. I feel like when you start picking them, just as they go and just off of their talent level for the position that they are, that doesn't always mesh up well with another person. So, it's our preference to have a tryout with, a live tryout, if obviously not this year, but to be able to see the athletes, work together and see what they're able to do, as a unit versus just picking them off of their talent alone.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you, Steve. You can hear me? Okay, well, sorry. I was just going to say, I've been intrigued by what Ohio State was doing the last couple of years, and it's something that I've actually thought about for a while. Why is cheerleading different than other sports? But ultimately, what I keep coming back to is I still think there's a value to having tryouts. I feel like there are 2 or 3 other experiences that our athletes, have that same type of pressure. And I would even say that tryouts is potentially more pressure than nationals, because at nationals, you train with your team for weeks, months, a better part of a year. You work on your routine over and over, and then you go out there and do it. You trust your teammates, you trust your partner, and the skills. In a tryout situation, you may not have practiced that much with the person you're working with. Even if you have, it's probably not nearly as much, and you're the only person out there. Even when you're competing with a team, you're one of 16 or you're one of 20. Some all-star teams have 36. So when you're out there at your tryout, it's just you, and you're the focus of attention. So I really think that there's a value to having that experience. And I think, like what Tony said too, and with all girl, it's very difficult. Let's say you have a really talented athlete from Billy Bob's Gymnastics or some little rinky-dink program, and they're super talented. There might be some you want to have in your program, but they're not somebody that if you saw them in their natural setting, or if you went to watch them at a game, or you even watch them at a competition, that they may not be able to show you the skills that they're capable of because the rest of their team is holding them back. And so it's important to have them in a setting like at your own clinics, and then even at your own trials, where you can see them work with your own athletes who are at the same caliber that they might be. I can't hear myself. So
Ben,
now I can hear you.
Yeah, there you go, Ben.
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, I agree with that. Also, I think like you might miss that diamond in the rough. You know what I mean? Or like it's happened to me too. I'm sure with all of us. Like this girl or guy just walks into tryouts that you've never seen before and just blows you away. Or like, where the heck have you been? You kind of missed out on that. I mean, I guess what are your feelings about kind of the possibility of missing that diamond in the rough, or that kid that maybe gets accepted last minute or something like that?
That's what I'll say to kind of add on to, excuse me, to add on to Mark. He's probably aware of this young lady, but one of the best girls that I've ever had the opportunity to coach, her name was Brittany Kazuto, when I was at Morehead, and she was from this small little school in New York. I think she had 6 people on her cheerleading team, but she came and she was a 4-year member that was just phenomenal. Probably one of the best athletes that I've ever coached. That's the only you miss out on some of those girls, and that's kind of why we personally probably wouldn't ever go that route, because those are the fun ones to find, that are from out of the blue, nowhere.
Right. I think first, Mark, I agree with you. I think that is probably the one element of the tryout process, or the whole recruiting team selection process, that I do miss, is that kind of that individual tryout component. How I kind of combat that is with the recruiting process that we have. It gives me an opportunity to develop a stronger relationship with them. A lot of the times, the people that Lisa we've selected over the last 2 years, I'd say the vast majority of them were people that I've known longer than a year. So I've been able to, see their videos with them stunning with maybe people at their gym, their kind of local setting. And then I've also been able to see them at some of our own, clinics, and see how they interact with our team members. And then also be able to, at least some of them, see them perform, at the national level. I think one of the big things that we look for, is just besides the skills, is how are they going to fit within our culture? That's been a big thing that we focused on building. It started from our first year, me and my assistant coach, Siobhan St. John, as we're about to enter our 7th year, but we've really seen some positive growth through that over the last 3 to 4 years. And knowing that we could potentially miss out on someone that has phenomenal skills is kind of a chance we're willing to take. But most importantly, we want to see that they're going to be a good fit with our culture. I think, again, that there are some cons to it. There's pros and cons to each system. I don't think anyone's right or wrong. I'll just say that. But over these last 2 years with selecting our team and being able to form those relationships, I know that some of the elite skills, some of the more advanced things that we'll be able to teach, as our job as head coaches, is be able to teach those skills. But I feel that you can't necessarily, you can make improvements to it, but teaching all the needs of their character are going to be a little bit more difficult for us.
I think is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay. Something else is another reason why that I haven't changed it at Morehead, is because our alumni are super involved here, and tryouts is one of the ways that they're helping to pick the next generation of athletes that are following in their footsteps. And so I bring a lot of alumni back, and I love having their involvement. They've been in the program for years, and we have a lot of traditions that we carry on, and they know what it takes, and they know the determination. And I think if I eliminated that, not that I have to please all my alumni all the time, but I think I would upset a lot of them. But I enjoy bringing them back, and it's like a big reunion too. So that's another big reason, is the alumni, because I've thought about what you were doing at Ohio State, and I was like, wow, like I could save money. I could not have to hire, get hotel rooms, and I have to drive people in and have to get the judges in, and it would just be less time overall. But I don't know. As of right now, I'm going to have to keep doing it that way. But I see, I love what you're doing. I think it's very innovative and smart.
Mark, when you have your alumni judge your tryouts, I'm sure that when it comes down to it, there's some people that are just above and beyond, like they're going to make the team. But when it comes down to some of those people that are close, who has the final say?
I do, and generally what I do is I let them judge because I've been coaching in the state of Kentucky for 25 years, and so I have relationships with a lot of these athletes prior to them. Some of them have been coming to our clinics for years, and especially the ones that I've had an opportunity to coach. I have a better idea of what they're capable of doing. But going back to the whole reason why we have tryouts is that one and done. I mean, our sport is one and done. Just we get out there in finals. There's no timeouts. There's no do-overs. And so that's one of the reasons why I like that pressure of tryouts. And so if, let's say somebody has a bad day, somebody else that I don't know has a better day, I could, as the head coach, be like, well, I know them. I have a relationship with them, and I'm going to vouch for them. They didn't do well today, but then I feel like that kind of undermines the whole process of doing the trial. And so generally when I step in is when they can't decide, or they're kind of torn, or there's been a couple of cases when there were people that I pretty much told them, like, you don't need to apply to another school. Like this is, there's been athletes that were so talented, I knew I was going to take them. Like, I knew that I wanted them, which has also made me think about doing what you're doing. But those people, I don't know, one of them didn't smile at tryouts. And so the judges were like adamant. My alumni were adamant about cutting them. And I'm like, look, she applied to one school. Right. She only applied to Morehead. I told her she was coming. Like, I will teach her to smile. But, the beautiful and the stunning and the beautiful body positions and the stuff, like, I'll teach her to smile. But
I'll tell you,
go ahead.
Another big reason why, not the only reason, but another big reason why we did also switch to the recruitment model is it, for the most part at least, allows us to finalize our roster earlier than a typical tryout season. With, Worlds getting pushed back in a normal year, and then the multiple summits, and it just seems like the all-star season getting longer. And granted, not all of our people are on all-star teams that come. Tryout dates kind of get pushed back farther and farther. And the deadline to accept admission to Ohio State is May 1st. And that's something I noticed the first 2 years when we still had tryouts, was we were having to have tryouts after that deadline. So there were some kids that we would cut, and maybe they missed another tryout, or they decided to go to another school and they'd already paid their admission fee. So then they were out some money there. So that was kind of a conflict, that something internally I was like, I don't think this is right. I think we got to try to do something about it. And honestly, then one of the thoughts was, well, could we do tryouts earlier? We plan our season with the hope that Ohio State's going to make the Final Four for basketball. It's happened recently within a couple of years, but with that going through the beginning of April and potentially having all those weekends in March blocked off, then we have our spring football game, which that's a huge weekend. By that point, it's usually right around finals, and I don't want to have to do tryouts, over the weekend right before finals. So we kind of ran out of time as well, which kind of helped, push me then to just moving to the recruitment model.
And another thing that is ICU, like we have kids competing it. Obviously, Tony is coaching it, and I agree. We have the same thing at Purdue with the May 1st deadline, and because of the COVID situation, it's been extended to June 1st just for this year. But that still isn't going to change how we're doing things in terms of at least selecting our team. Tony, do you have anything in regards to like that?
Big Ten, Ben? I think IU beat Ohio. Steve, I don't want to talk to you, but anyways, let's talk to Ben.
Shots fired.
I agree. I agree both with Mark and Ben. I think that there's definite positives to either way. Steve, and I like what you're doing with the hybrid. Like Mark said, let's be honest. You're going to get some of those kids that come in that are, rock stars that have a place, and then you're going to have kids who are talented, but they're gonna need to be able to go through that process to be able to show us what they're made of. So I definitely agree with both of you guys on it, and I think that there's value to both ways. Just you guys know, just being in traditional places, sometimes it's a little bit harder to break away from that tradition. But I think that it's a super positive for athletes. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, is that we're looking at these athletes and taking into consideration how they train and what they do to get to this level. Because most of the people who are the superstar athletes, they're not training. They're working their tails off to get where they need to go. So, it's sometimes great to be able to reward that for them.
I'll also say this, that if we had an all-girl team at Ohio State, and we do not have any plans to add one at the varsity level at this time, I don't think that I would do the recruitment model. From my time at Delaware, having an all-girl team that we started, I agree with what you said, Tony. I do think that it is so much more important to see that physical, in-person, how are they working with each other? Obviously you're not going to, master timing or anything like that just through a tryout weekend, but kind of seeing the possibilities of cohesiveness. And I've gone back and forth, with different people about this. And I think, a sport that we all enjoy, football, and obviously like an offensive line needs to have cohesiveness, but I still think that, they're able to recruit those athletes because it's not the physically, we're lifting someone up. There's still things that can be taught, where with an all-girl team with multiple bases, I think it's just crucial to have that kind of in-person tryout. I
agree. I think, yeah. No, go ahead, Tony.
That's one more thing that I'll just add to that, is that, in this day and age, and this is probably a whole nother show topic that you could have, of just, these athletes having the opportunity. Everybody comes and all makes inside of this, and so feel like you're opening that door when you do the tryout session to give more people opportunity. Not everyone's 5 foot, 100 pounds, and can stunt with guys, and not everyone's like that. And there's some of the most athletic girls that I know were on all girl teams. And so I do think that it gives more opportunity, but at the same time, we know our programs. Ben and Mark and Steve, you guys, we all know what the dynamic and what the need is for our program. So I think everyone's going to be different in that front.
I think that, when Ben made the announcement, that was like waves through the community. It was something I know that I think a lot of us have maybe talked about, or maybe thrown the idea, like, why don't we just treat ourselves like football and just recruit and just pick our team? And like Tony said, and, there's just some no-brainers, and there's just, you see a guy or a girl and you're like, that they come to my tryout, I'm taking them, it's just a no-brainer. But I do agree that I think that the co-ed all-girl model is tough, in regards to if you do have an all-girl team with that. But to finish up kind of the tryout talk here, let's have Mark talk about what's the plans at Morehead, and what is Morehead doing in regards to tryouts for this year with the COVID-19 situation.
Yeah, given the the virus situation, and with all the campuses and some cities even being on complete lockdown, we've had to go to a video tryout. I'm interested to see how it goes. This is the first time that we've ever done something like that. We've already talked a little bit about the importance of having athletes present to see them. I'm a little concerned about being able to see the skills that we're talking about. How can you see the fire in their eye, or their body language, or their confidence, and the things that you're looking for from a video. But I really didn't see any other way around it, and I wanted to jump the ball. Kind of what Ben was talking about. I didn't want to wait and keep pushing it back and then be getting into May and teams are already giving other people giving athletes spots, and I was just concerned that if I drug my feet too long, that we would be in a situation where I'd be scrambling to get athletes and get a team together. So I wanted to go on and do the video tryouts. Our deadline for registration is actually tomorrow, and then the video deadline is April 24th. And then myself and some alumni are going to judge the videos, and we're going to meet through Zoom meetings the following week, and then we're going to post the results on May 2nd, which is pretty much the weekend that we would normally do tryouts. Anyway, that was when it was scheduled, when it was still going to be a physical tryout. But we're doing the videos, and I've had a lot of athletes tell me that, their gyms are closed and, they don't have an opportunity to get in and film their skills. So I'm just telling them to send the best in that they can. A lot of the athletes are in the same boat. They can send in older videos of themselves or videos from clinics would be great. But just do the best they can. And so we're going to rely a lot on how they present themselves, what kind of shape their videos look like, how they present themselves. We have an interview intro video that I'm going to probably really use a lot to kind of see how serious they're taking this. And we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to get this season started. I'm sure like you guys, I'm missing cheerleading. Like I've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings and, talking about cheerleading, but I went in the practice room the other day to do a Zoom meeting with my team just to get in the practice room again and let them see it. And I'm anxious to get back. And so, I've been trying to make the most of this, the time that we've had, but I'm really anxious to get back. I'm excited for next season.
Tony, actually two things for you. For me is first of all, Indiana. What is Indiana's plans on this? And then also, I know they haven't technically canceled ICU yet. So kind of, with ICU, if that's a go, if the possibility that it's possibly a go, I really don't know. I haven't really heard much. I know that Worlds has not been canceled, but I don't know. Kind of just your take on that. If ICU is still a go.
Okay. First about our trials at IU. We're very similar to Mark. We plan on doing a video process, and we're actually going to do 2 rounds. So with IU and we're aware of game day and the importance of it in the Big Ten and the OVC, Mark. But we, we're allowed to fortunately take some larger type teams, whether it be having multiple teams that are all girl and co-ed or having multiple co-ed team, whatever it may be. But, we'll do round 1. It will consist of just skills with tumbling, stunts, things that they, have on their phone, just things that they've shown in like the last year or so. I'm always very skeptical about anything video wise because I never know if it's their first time or 20th time doing it. But with this pandemic going on, obviously we need to be sensitive to our athletes that plan on our potential candidates. So that's kind of what we're looking for. And then round 2 is basically going to be live once we're allowed to get back on campus. So from round 1, we may take more individuals than we typically would, but round 2 is going to be able to weed them out because we're going to need to see those minimum skills that they showed us by video, which will all be tracked and charted. So the things that they're saying that they have or showing that they have, they're going to go through round 2, and if they're not doing those type of things, then they have the potential of being moved to an alternate status or being not selected for our final team. So, I think that everyone is going to go through this same process and have a tremendously difficult time with getting the right team for them this year, just because of all of this pandemic that's going worldwide. So, it'll be interesting. It makes me nervous as well. Like Mark said, it's a tough situation for everybody. I feel especially bad for the athletes who've been training so hard to make specific universities or any university for that matter. And now that's kind of just been taken out underneath the rug from them. And, it becomes a challenge. So it'd be interesting to see. As far as ICU, they've postponed ICU until the fall. They're looking at a couple of dates in September. I know there's talks with Disney and trying to secure location and that venue in itself. I've talked with my coaching staff for all of the U.S. teams, which we have 18 different teams. So there's a lot of moving parts there. But talking specifically with my internal coaching staff, I don't want us to commit to things because I think that it's tremendously difficult at that time of the year. As if everything gets back to normal, we'll be in the middle or beginning of football season, and trying to get these athletes, a lot of people don't know that the U.S. team, they train in 9-10 days. And so getting them away for 10 days at the start of a semester when they were out the previous semester of spring, it's just going to be tremendously difficult. And, as you are all aware, all of these teams from all these countries, it's not where it's U.S. dominated anymore. There's a lot of great teams in both co-ed and all girl and dance and all those different divisions. I just want it to be practical for everyone. And then I think, in the same sense, it's harder for the international teams if you tell them, hey, we're going to compete in the end of September, and then them try to turn around for 2021 to come back in April. That's just an incredible expense that they're going to have to take. And, unfortunately, cheerleading is not the NFL. We're making millions and millions and millions, and people are able to do that type of thing. So, right now we're kind of in a holding pattern to see what happens. I think that it's a fluid situation. It can change daily, but as of right now, we're just kind of in a holding pattern, and from that point, we'll see where we go.
Yeah, here at Purdue, we just finished up our video rounds actually, and actually just had Skype or FaceTime interviews is what we did. Kind of get to know the kids a little bit more, and like Ben was talking, which I totally agree with. I think we kind of miss out on the fit, and personality. And I mean, it's not perfect, obviously. And I know Nicole and I, my sister Nicole and I, have really been stressing to our returners and the possible incoming freshmen is there is no doubt we're going to make some mistakes. I mean, this is not, we make mistakes in a live tryout, let alone a video tryout, and, we definitely are expecting, unfortunately, to be, get a video that's, that who is this person? This is not the person I saw on video. And that's probably going to happen. I don't know. But in terms of the video, we were always looking for the fight song, see if somebody, if they could learn the fight song, number one. Any types of tumbling they could show us. Same thing as Tony was talking about. We said no more than 2 years old, but preferably within the last year if possible. And competition videos. I don't mind seeing a kid compete, and seeing how they do under pressure and on a stage. And it was nice to get some, state footage or UCA nationals or worlds footage from kids to kind of see how they perform under pressure in a big venue like that. I mean, that's kind of what we were looking for. And then the kind of video round was, again, try to get to know these kids a little bit in terms of fit. Because, even though a majority of them did come to a clinic, not all of them did, which, that's a whole different subject about how to get recruited and going to college clinics and stuff like that. But Mark, in terms of videos, what were you guys looking for at Morehead?
Trying to, normally at our tryouts, we have an interview Friday night with the alumni, and then they have the skills portion on Saturday. And so I was trying to keep the same format with the same skills that we do at the live tryouts as much as possible. I considered doing what you were talking about, like, FaceTime interviews or Skype interviews, but I ultimately kind of scratched that because I just thought coordinating that for 100+ people, or, I think right now we've got 91 people signed up for our tryouts. And so I just felt like that would be a kind of a mess to try to schedule that many Skype videos or that many Zoom interviews, and then try to coordinate it. Would it be with me or would it be with my judges, and how we would coordinate that. So ultimately I just decided for them to do a short interview video, take about 30-45 seconds to introduce themselves, say where they're from, where they've cheered. And then I gave them 3 interview questions, and I gave them one that I wanted them specifically to answer. And then I told them to pick one from 2 other questions. And so depending on what question that they chose, I thought that would tell a little bit about them, why they chose that particular question, and then how they answered it. Obviously, the main question is why Morehead? Morehead State, we have obviously a great tradition, but it's a very small town, and it's a very specific culture. It's a very competitive culture. It's a very intense culture. And so, they need to be very, focused on why they're there and why they're choosing Morehead. And I know that we have Lee Clay. She's one of our alumni that I have that lives pretty close to Morehead. She comes in and judges tryouts every year, and that's her question. So I chose Lee Clay's question, but I think it's very applicable to Morehead because, one of the I don't have a million Myron Doan anecdotes, but one of the things that he told me one time on the phone is that, you really need to want to be at Morehead. And so I wanted to, to kind of see what they said. If people say, well, I want to win rings or I want to be a national champion. Okay, great. That's everybody. But, you've got to really have more meat on the bone than just, I want to be a national champion. And so the interview videos, and then they have to do the fight song. That's important that they can be able to pick up the fight song. Sometimes we have all-star people that try out for us and they've not done a lot of like cheer motions. So as long as they can show some grasp, the Morehead fight song, I believe, is not changed a ton in like the last 12 or 14 years. And it's not incredibly difficult. I mean, for the guys, it's 4 motions. So it's not very hard for the guys. For the girls, it's a little bit more involved, but hopefully they can show that they can pick up the fight song. And again, they're not probably going to be able to have stunt groups or be able to get in a gym. So it's just going to be literally their spirit and motions. And then we want to see their standing tumbling and running tumbling. We ask for 1 pass. If they have a standing full, ask for a video of that. And then they were supposed to do, kind of their best stunt video that they could send in. And that could be like from a competition video. It could be from high school or all-stars. If they had a clinic video that they sent in, they could do that. Basically just hope, seeing if they could do a spinning stunt and a flipping stunt. And it could be all in one video. If they had a stunt sequence that, from clinic that they, did a flipping stunt and then they did a double down or something, they could send one video. And then I want to see top girls do a double down, and especially if they're from high school cheer where double downs are illegal in high school. That's one of the really important things for incoming flyers that we're looking for. Not that we can't teach it, but it's really nice if we don't have to spend time on double downs, breaking noses and stuff. So, and I believe that's it.
Real quick before we move on to the next subject, Tony, do you want to kind of, anybody that's watching, talk about what you're looking for in your videos?
It's really the kind of the same thing. We do very similar. We'll do a short intro video of their name, who they are, what they're from, and just where what school they currently attend, and then just something interesting about themselves. They need to indicate which team that they're trying out for, whether it be cream or crimson for our co-ed or all-girl teams. And then from that point, you're basically just doing a lot of the skills elements with the showing what tumbling and what stunts you can from previous videos. And then we ask for a few sidelines. I think we have 5 on our tryout process, and they get to choose 2, and then do the fight song as well. So, it's harder. I don't know. It's extremely difficult to do this by video. And like I mentioned earlier, and I think we've all said, with, you just really don't know what you're going to get, because, there was a day that I did a standing tuck, but when you get that video, it's not, it wasn't yesterday. It was like 3 days ago, but you know how that goes. Well, I don't know why that's funny to everybody, but
I agree with you in terms of bamboozled. Just who is this person? This is not the person I saw.
Yeah.
To clarify that, we did actually, for Mark, we actually did make first round of cuts after videos, and then cut it down, and then did our FaceTime interviews and stuff. And so, what's that, Mark? What'd you say, Mark? I can't hear you. I can't hear Mark. Did Mark mute himself? That's okay.
Okay, well, I was trying to unmute. 10 points to Gryffindor. So, what I was going to say was I considered, because of the video trials and the virus and everything, and the ambiguity and not wanting to get bamboozled, I considered, doing a first round of cuts with the videos and inviting people to work week and later in the summer. But I'm glad I didn't do that. One, because there's no guarantee that we're even going to have a work week now. But I also, just trying to think about the welfare and what's best for the individual athletes. I didn't want to string somebody along, because let's just say if they make it through our first round of cuts and they're like one of the last people cut, they're really, really talented and they're going to have a lot of options. And so I didn't want to make them commit to Morehead come to, June, or really our work weeks in July. And then if they happen to be the person or two that gets cut at that point, they have no options at that point. And so I just really didn't think that was the right thing to do or the fairest thing to do. And so we just kind of went all in on the video tryouts because, I had some people like, well, why don't you do 2 rounds of cuts? I'm like, that sounds great in theory, but I just didn't think that was the best way to go.
I just care about the kids trying out for my team more. That's why I did individual interviews with them, Mark. So,
I think one thing. Go ahead, Tony.
Good. I feel like I just need, before you say something serious, Ben, I just feel like I need to use the word bamboozled in some type of a sentence.
Ben, it's your turn. You haven't used it yet.
I just think one thing that, obviously while we already have our team selected, but even for future years with the method that we're using, one of the first things that we do get from everyone is a video, part of the recruit questionnaire. So, some of the things that we look for on videos is really personality and confidence. I know those are general terms, but I have received some videos of people that, just they can't look at the camera. They are reading off a piece of paper, or they're just very unsure about themselves. And, like Steve and Tony, you'll know, at the Big Ten, there's a lot of big games, and we have over 100,000 people at our home football games, and on average 15,000 at our basketball games, and have a lot of high-profile athletic department events, where these people are going to need to mingle and interact with people. So, on top of the athleticism, we need people that are really going to be strong ambassadors of the athletic department. Take the skills aside, and just people that. One of the examples I like to use, if you were on an elevator and it got stuck and you were with the president of the university and a big donor, could you hold a conversation for 10 minutes? That kind of mindset. And that's one of the things that we look at. And then obviously the skills, we're a team. We're a varsity team that, is competitive. So we want to see, elite tumbling, elite partner stunts. For those people that have cheered at the high school level, we do like to see some game day footage. And I think what helps us is when we get those videos early, it gives me an opportunity to provide some feedback of some things that we'd like to see. Also, if there's some people that we don't, kind of right off the bat, don't think will be a good fit, I try to tell them that as early as possible, not to string anyone along. But people that I think could have a chance, we say, all right, this was good. Like you to, straighten your legs more when you're tumbling, or let's sharpen up our motions a little bit, be a little bit more explosive or faster in your partner stunts. So, that helps us kind of give that preliminary information, and gives us that preliminary, vantage point on someone if we're interested in them.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to, we wanted to get through 2 subjects today.
Bamboozled.
Before we get bamboozled here, the second subject we did want to talk about is the new high school rules that have opened up the last few years. 2 years ago, they opened up flipping to prep level, and then this past year, opening it up to flipping to the top. Also, in terms of twisting stunts, in regards to, Mark already mentioned, this has been a while now, but double downs have not been part of high school for quite a while, which we can get in a little bit of a debate about that. But kind of want to talk to the guys here about flipping stunts specifically right now, but also just kind of the high school rules, and are the rules really helping prepare these kids when they come to the collegiate level, is kind of where I want to go with this subject. So I'll start with Tony Nash. Tony, what are your feelings about kind of the new high school rules that have opened up flipping, but also kind of limited the twisting in regards to twisting down?
Yeah, I think there's really 2 parts to this. I definitely was concerned when the high school removed the double downs, and I understand why that happened. Obviously we want to protect these athletes, first and foremost. But I think that was a training issue. I don't feel like that was an age issue, and so I feel like a lot of the athletes, if they were having any type of injury, was due to the training or trying to get them to a certain level too quickly. So when that happened, my thought process was, well, instead of that being a high school issue, now it becomes a college issue. because, after, 4 or 5 years, these kids, I mean, I have kids that are on my team today and I say, let me see you double down. And they're like, I've never tried it before, and so those types of things I think is all about, training these athletes correctly and doing it timely, which I feel like at least I know all of us on this call well. So I know that we are about pushing progression and making sure that these athletes are ready to do that skill. As far as the flipping, I do from an all girls perspective, especially, I do feel like it's helped. I kind of find myself now having to break some habits. They start developing these habits where they're getting comfortable doing skills, not how we do them. And so when I do get them on my team, there's some things that they're just so used to doing that it's hard to get them through that process. But just there's not a fear as much anymore with them being able to do these skills. It's just hoping that they come from programs that their coaches are teaching them good habits, like for instance, a back handspring up, and not breaking at the waist when you push the backhand, all those types of things there. You don't want them to happen, because as we all know as coaches, habits are tremendously difficult to break. And when you get in positions of, stress or pressure, those habits are the things that take over. And so I think it's good and bad, but, it's good for the simple fact that people are learning how to flip earlier. And so when they get to college, they're not afraid of it, but then they can also, look at the technique part of it. And we just want to ensure that they're doing it correctly, because, we can do harder things than just the flipping. And so we want to get to those things. So if they have bad habits, it takes us a little bit more time to get to the harder flipping skills.
It's almost a debate of what kind of athlete do you want? Do you want the athlete with a lot of experience, but they've learned their technique? Or do you kind of want that blank canvas athlete that hasn't really done much, but is athletic, and you can kind of teach him or her what you want out of it? That's the debate, Ben, from a co-ed perspective, what have you seen in regards to, like large co-ed with guys and females coming in with these new flipping stunts?
Yeah. I think that females I've seen, have more experience, that have gotten reps, incoming freshman females, whether it's been at one of our clinics or, some maybe on a high school team. I do think that there's only a handful of high school males around the country that are doing, co-ed flipping skills to the top, like a college team. And only obviously a handful of programs, kind of at that elite level. So I haven't really dealt with as many guys as girls. I do think it's provided that opportunity for females to just get a little bit more experience in working on those things. But I definitely agree with Tony that sometimes if they've learned it the wrong way, it takes longer to break those bad habits. And, maybe you have to do a lot more drills. I specifically, with all of my teams, start with round-off up drills and back handspring up drills, doing those properly before, I even let them throw that skill. And we've had, I have a team member that's going to be a second year this upcoming season that was a transfer student last year who had done, back handspring ups before. And we spent a lot of time doing timers with him. And he would look at me and I said, just wait, trust the process. And then he was able to kind of learn it the way that I thought was going to be the smoothest, best technique for him. And then it kind of paid off in the long run. So there's kind of pros and cons to it, but I definitely think that it's at least giving those, people an opportunity to work on some different skills, whether it is co-ed or all girl.
Mark, what have you seen?
I think for the most part, I think it's good. They've been positive changes. I mean, as somebody that works with all girl and co-ed high school teams, and co-ed and all girl at Morehead, I think before the skill gap between what was legal in high school and what was legal in college was too big. I mean, you were talking a huge jump from like up until a couple of years ago, like there was no flipping stuff really other than like Bajas or brace flips that were illegal. And now you can do back handspring ups to the top. And, so I think it's good, like everyone else has said, that I think having more experience, I think they're at least accustomed to those skills. I know we do things our way at Morehead, and we do them different than a lot of other people. And so there is sometimes an adjustment period. But I think the positives, at least that I've seen with the athletes that are coming to me at Morehead, have been outweighed the negatives, again, because I just think that progressions, it's just not as big of a jump to go from I've never really done, half flipping skills like front handspring ups or back handspring ups. So now you've at least been like introduced to them quite a bit, because before going to a clinic was the only place really that you could even, unless you were doing individual privates, but for all girl flipping stunts, pretty much going to a college clinic was about the only place you could go. And then even up until a few years ago, there weren't very many college clinics that you could go to where you could learn those skills. So I think it's been beneficial. And like I said, I like that the skill gap is not as great between what's legal in high school and college.
Yeah, I agree. I've noticed in our clinics dramatically more with the females and the males as of right now. But even a couple males came in like comfortable doing the hand in hands and things like that, which I would never expected that from a male even last year, let alone, but I think high school nationals kind of showed us what's coming up soon, because high school nationals was crazy talented. I mean, so many great programs flipping to the top. I mean, co-ed, obviously Bartow, I think threw like 45 hand in hands or something crazy like that. And then Live Oak was unbelievable. Live Oak was legit good. I mean, it's only going to benefit us. It's less for us to kind of have to teach, but also definitely the worry about is, well, what kind of technique are they teaching on these flipping skills? Or, as we all know, bending their bodies just to hit the skill versus doing it right, because obviously if with those techniques, you're never going to be able to flip and spin, which is obviously a collegiate skill still. But, in regards to, high schools coming up, have you guys seen any trends in regards to like what types of specific skills that you've been seeing in regards to good technique, but also maybe technique that maybe you want to talk about that could be taught better or maybe kind of emphasized more at the high school level to help us out?
I think, in my opinion, and I feel it deals a lot with flipping as well, but I think one of the big skills now in both high school and college is hand in hands, and going inverted from shoulder level in college, even doing extended level. But I feel like some of the technique issues that I'm seeing incoming freshmen come in with is that when they go from a hand-in-hand position from shoulder level, they're taught to get their feet down so quick. So if you really would slow down a video and watch it slow, you have a lot of people who are already in a piked position before they even let go of hands, and so I think that is something, and that is definitely a technique issue. But I kind of blame that on the rule, really, because they're going from shoulders, and before they could only go to shoulders. They couldn't go higher. They couldn't catch. You're not supposed to catch at the top, but they couldn't do those skills. So you were having to get your feet down very quickly. And, so that was a rule issue that caused technique versus, just a technical issue. So I think that hand in hands are probably a big trend, that it's a hard adjustment from high school to college. But
I agree with that totally. The one thing I was going to chime in about the hand in hand thing that I've been seeing is back spots grabbing the waist of the flyer and not the wrist. So then these top girls are completely leaning on these back spots, and these back spots are holding at the waist and then flipping from hand in hand there. I was cringing every time I saw a team do that. But if I'm a high school coach and I know I need this skill to hit at the top and I need it to be competitive at nationals, I'm going to teach what I can teach from my knowledge to be competitive.
But then again, Steve, you think about that kind of reiterates the rule issue, because think about before the hand in hand was a craze, that people were doing basically what called shoulder inverts, where they're in a handstand, they have their hands on the shoulders of the bases and you're laned, and so back spots are used to grabbing there versus grabbing low. So I think that's all of an issue with the rule itself, and not necessarily a technique issue. It's just something that as we go in time, it will get better for sure. And there's, like Mark said and Ben said and you've said, that there's a handful of teams out there that do those types of things extremely well, and other teams learn from that by seeing teams do them extremely well.
One other thing that I wanted to say about the flipping stunts is, I think before the ceiling on the skills was so low for like elite teams, like you were seeing the same skills from everybody at nationals at high school. And now at least there's some separation because they've raised the bar a little bit, that it allows for teams like Live Oak or Bartow, to do those elite collegiate looking skills. And so I like that too. I mean, it's created a little bit of separation because you've got to be pretty skilled to do a back handspring up or a hand in hand to the top, and so I think it's just kind of giving a little bit of room for those elite high school teams to shine, which I appreciate,
Ben, what have you seen from your clinics in regards to any types of like technique things that you're seeing that maybe could be fixed earlier?
Yeah, I definitely think. Well, first I'm going to start with like the actual cheerleading part. We see so many girls come in that, unique kind of high school game day to what we want on a college game day. And a big pet peeve is people that clap but don't make any noise. So that's one thing I would still say. College or high school coaches, teach your kids to clap where they're making some noise. As it relates to skills, what's unique about our clinics is we get a wide variety of people. Every single clinic we have, we get some people that have never stunted, and then people that have stunted a lot, but it's their first time to one of our clinics, and then people that have been to several of our clinics. So we with a wide variety, I haven't noticed super much from kind of the unique rule changes. But I do think that, having some people come in with already, some experience helps them progress a little bit farther, helps them progress a little bit faster, allows them to, work on some different things.
In terms of the new rules and skills, I mean, have you guys, at least from your clinics and from what you're seeing, I mean, I know I feel like they are more skilled. So I'm personally am seeing less of a learning curve, which for my team has led to, I feel, less injuries or less like stupid, like little injuries, things like that. Have you guys kind of seen the same thing with your guys' programs?
Yeah, I think there's just a general, as this sport has grown so much, even over the last 10 years, the last 20 years, just with the amount of people participating in, the different gyms and as coaches are getting more experience, you just see a higher level of athleticism, people that have been trained longer. So, you see people coming to your clinics with more skills in general, more body awareness that helps translate to learning some skills faster. So I think that's an exciting thing, that's happening in our sport. And, just like Mark talked about with the ceiling, where it was at with high school cheer, at the national level. And now that it's opened up, I think you're going to kind of continue to see more people and more teams and more athletes, get better faster and be able to perform more things that honestly, I don't think, in my opinion, that we're ready yet, but maybe in the next 5 years, will they open up the college rules a little bit? If enough teams are kind of doing the same things, are they going to open that up a little bit to, add on a little bit more?
What do you guys think? I think obviously like social media, the internet, camera phones, and just the accessibility that people have to different angles, to slow-mo. I feel like that's, so many people are posting like every stunt that they do on Instagram. So if they do something new, I see stunts on Instagram before I see them, anywhere else. Oh, yeah. And, I mean, how old is Instagram? I feel like it's, is it 10 years yet? I mean, I felt like it was a little bit after Twitter, but I feel like it's what it's become, what it currently is. It's been within the last 4 or 5 years, so even 8 or 10 years ago, you didn't have the access that kids now have. I mean, we can see what the best stunners are doing in Paris. We can see what the best stunners are doing in Finland. We can see the best stunners in Russia. We can Chinese stunners. I mean, like, I see all the crazy Japanese college teams that are doing all their pyramids and stuff. I would have never had access to that. And so I think all that stuff, I mean, you guys know how it is, how important confidence and belief is. If you see somebody else do it, then it can be done. And like, I want to be the next person to do that. So let's go work on that skill. And, it might take 100 tries, but like the most determined people are going to get that video and they're going to post it. And then, so the next person may, once you have that video, you have like the blueprint. Oh, well, look what they did there. Look at the angle that they threw it, or look where their hands are placed, or look how she pushed off, or all those different things that are so much easier before. Because when, we're going way back. But when I cheered, like if you didn't see it at college camp, if you if you didn't print it in your memory at college nationals, or you didn't freeze your VHS tape when you were watching it on ESPN, we didn't have access to all those things. So I think it's just the prevalence of technology, social media, and coaching. I mean, just think how much knowledge in coaching and access to great coaching that people have. Like there's a cheerleading gym almost in every town, which used to not be the case. And so I just think all those things have really helped progress the sport even faster than it used to be.
I think one thing too that's unique even really for co-ed, but as we talked about a little bit ago, how hand-to-hands are now like a staple, even obviously at the high school level, how that has really grown with the acro world, and seeing a lot of these acro sites on Instagram, and the combining them with cheer, and then how that's opening up more ideas. I think that's been a big growth for co-ed partner stunning, at least. Seeing some new movements and new body positions and new entries into some different skills.
That's obviously something that I think is big for the future. I feel like with what we do in a competitive world, we get so, I guess, stopped by rules, and when rules start open or numbers start to open, then the creativity can flow again. So I think with all of our experience, that most things that are being done right now, you've seen somebody do. It's not like it's something where 5-6 years ago you're doing something that, oh my gosh, I've never seen anyone do that before. So I think Mark's absolutely right. The video part, or the video piece of what we do when it comes to skills, is just it's phenomenal. I'm seeing kids that are 10 years old doing things that my college athletes aren't doing. Of course, they're 10-year-old bodies, but it's pretty impressive.
Just an opinion question, something off the top of my head. So we did not prepare this question at all, but just opinion here. How long before you think flipping skills at college nationals is looked at as like a high school stunt? It's not going to be looked at as. It'd be at best an IME, like a back handspring up, or even it might already be there. We might be there already.
I think it's already there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're there in regards to kind of just your opinion on the push of the skills, and maybe should we maybe look at opening up the college rule a little bit, so that maybe there is a little bit more gap between high school and college when it comes to elite stunning.
Well, I to the first part of that, I think we're kind of already there. I mean, I'm a glasses half full person, so instead of looking at a college team and saying that they look like a high school team, I would prefer to say that high school team looks like a college team. But there are quite a few high school teams starting to look like college teams. And even if you go back before the flipping rules, what made Christian Brothers so impressive as a high school team? They looked like a college co-ed team. What made the best all-girls, Houston High School back in the early 2000s, or Dunbar. I mean, they were doing the things that the best college teams are doing. So as far as like basic flipping stunts, I thought this year I saw a pretty universal jump between, I don't want to say basic, but like just about every college team was doing like back handspring ups to immediate body positions and stuff, which a couple of years ago, everybody was doing everything the platform. And so, I think we're going to see more back handspring pull-ups. That skill was first competed 5 or 6 years ago, as a team. So I think the rest of the college world and other teams are, the technology and the teaching and skills have caught up, that I think we're going to see more teams doing back handspring pull-ups. Like there's not that many teams that have competed that skill. But I think now that the high school teams are doing, the best high school teams are doing back handspring ups to the top, some of them to immediate body positions too. I think the learning curve is going to be expedited. And so you're going to see more college teams be able to do back handspring pull-ups. Plus they've had 5 or 6 years to work on it. And, obviously the skills that normally you're competing are not the skills that you started like that year. I mean, sometimes it takes 2 years of working on a skill or playing with stuff. So, but yeah, I think we're going to see college teams pushing, doing more difficult things than the high school teams, because the high school teams do it. And I think the mentality will be like, well, I mean, we got to be better than the best high school teams. We're going to have to push it harder. But I don't know if we're going to be at a position. I know in this year, Tony, in this like a major rule change year for stuff for college, and it's supposed to be.
Supposed to be.
Yeah. So if there are going to be any changes, but seeing as that has any team other than USA co-ed competed back handspring double ups like in a stunt sequence? Like, I don't know if they're going to feel the need at this moment to like really push the skills as far as like flipping and spinning. Now, you know, with I would love them to open it up to like full twisting rewinds the way that ICU could do. Like that would be pretty cool. And I'm really hoping that they like at least give some of the all girl baskets back next year. But I don't know if there's going to be like, I don't know if there's a desperate need at this moment to push the college rules, because not very many teams are really pushing. Like you're starting to see partner stunts do, you know, like the top of what's legal, but the teams haven't caught up to that just yet. You know, if the best co-ed teams, the best all-girl teams start doing back handspring double-ups as a team, then I would say, well, maybe we can look at beefing it up a little bit or like taking it a step further, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
I think one thing that, you know, would need to happen first is going back and reversing one of the rules where a half flipping skill, so a front handspring up, a back handspring up, a round off up, where that used to be able to be an IME stunt before it needed a spotter. Yeah. You know, and you know, you said it actually, at least to the best of my knowledge, was 2008 Tony's Morehead team, you know, against my first year at Delaware for grad school. Super competitive battle in Division I, and you know, they competed 7 back handspring full-ups in the IME. And you know, teams now are lucky to be able to do 5, you know, as an elite. So I still think then, you know, it you know, as the basket rules, you know, I'm sure we all have different thoughts on those basket rules, and I think that could almost be its own, you know, separate meeting. But I think one thing that the basket rules have done is it really focuses on technique and height, you know, and more of a gymnastics element of the execution score. And I do think we're getting closer to a ceiling at the college level. I do think that there's still more room. But I think that you can really focus on the execution, the technique. I think that the skills that are being done, you know, you can really start getting picky. Like, is it grips? Is it, you know, did they take any extra steps? All those little things will help. And I think they naturally do, you know, differentiate people that are at the top. But, you know, the one other thought I wanted to say was, you know, each year, you know, when we're at nationals, we think, wow, I feel like we've seen it all. Like, what else can be done? And then you come back the next year and there's something new. And I feel like that still is happening a little bit. So I think until that really stops, there's not maybe a big need yet to open up the rules. But I do think that we're getting closer.
But I do. I mean, and I agree with that, but I also think it's a two-way street because, you know, we've all been around long enough that I feel like you look at some of these teams now, like, you know, I probably shouldn't even try to mention all the teams that are at this just super high level. And, you know, they're kind of at a point where they're doing all the hard things continuously year after year. You know, I think that if, you know, it opens up just a little bit where those teams can push the envelope a little bit more, I feel like it's going to make teams who aren't quite at the level we're at right now, try to make them kind of raise the bar. And so, you know, let's be real. Like, I mean, when you talk about these all-girl and co-ed teams who are at the, you know, tip of the spear, who are at the very top, it's what they're doing is risky, you know, and we all coached enough to know that, you know, do I really need to do backhand full up immediates, or should I just do backhand full ups, pull a body position? You know, if we're getting to that point where, you know, you can do all these harder level skills, I think it makes the industry travel with you. So, I mean, I think it's a two-way street. I definitely agree with you, but, you know, I do feel like
it also slow down the growth.
You want to be that person who can push and make the industry better.
Right. And it could slow down the growth if, you know, it's not kind of new things aren't allowed either.
Yeah.
What do you guys?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, somebody asked me about this. What would you guys think about going to 10 points for difficulty in college? I would love that for stunts and pyramids.
Oh, I think that could be a whole different episode in terms of like talking about college score sheet and things. And I mean, personally, I would love it. I think that it doesn't make sense that it's even in high school, but not college level. I mean, right?
I agree.
You know, and then, I mean, I come from I'm very blessed that at Purdue, we've always had very strong tumbling. I've always had very good tumblers. Again, it doesn't make sense to me that it's worth double the points in high school than in college. It just, to me, doesn't make any sense for tumbling. But again, that's just my opinion.
Don't want to get too political, but you know why they did that, right?
Do you want to?
I'll call a spade a spade. They did it to level the playing field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, once doubles were illegal, you know, I mean, like, actually, when I had Ben on his full out, we're talking how like Ohio State's tumbling. I mean, the double backs and the fulls that Ohio State had was, I mean, it was crazy, and they were winning. it was just amazing the tumbling that Ohio State had back in the day. I mean, still do today, but I mean, it was just crazy what they were throwing. But well, we actually have just a couple of questions here. Let's see here. This is from Morgan, who is a Morehead alum, who actually cheered for Tony, if I'm not mistaken. Do you all think that the kids and their ideas help with creativity? Do you guys as coaches let your kids kind of play around and kind of get ideas from your kids, just playing around with like stunts and pyramids and stuff that you eventually maybe use in a routine?
Absolutely. I think that some of the best ideas are when kids are playing. Like I feel like some of my more memorable pyramid things are because we messed up trying something else and then it looked cool. I was like, oh, that could be cool. Let's try it. Even though we messed up, let's try something like that. But, I think giving them the creativity and the empowerment of being able to, showcase skills, it gives them a little bit more pride and they push it, becomes an internal competition. And I feel like it makes them take pride in what they're doing. So everyone always wants to try to, one up and be, oh, well, you think that's cool, look at this or whatever it may be. But I think it's a good, as long as the environment's healthy, I obviously don't want it to be conflict, but I think it's great for a team.
Let them have ownership.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Mark. When they can kind of have a part or, playing around and feeling that ownership, it's just that kind of more special level of involvement. They really feel that, it's not just a routine that was given to us. It's a routine that, we help create. But I also agree with Tony. I think so many cool things and fun things have come out of mistakes of other things. You're trying one thing and it goes totally wrong, but you're like, wait a second, try to do that exact same thing because it opened up more ideas.
Things that fail in cool ways are pretty awesome.
Sorry.
I was just saying, always gets me thinking in new directions. And I don't know about you guys, but very rarely do my pyramid ideas turn out 100% the way that I intended them. So sometimes when something's failed spectacularly, you're like, that wasn't what I intended, but that's still cool. So do that again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just a couple more questions and we'll wrap things up here. This is from Gavin, who I think is another Morehead alum, actually. Gavin.
Yes.
Are any of us maybe going to hold fall tryouts, considering the situation we're in and maybe doing a fall tryout? I'll start that off. As of right now at Purdue, we are not. We are letting people know through the video process that if we get bamboozled by anybody and they're not who we thought they were going to be, we might have a fall tryout, but only with the people that submitted a video that almost made the team through video. But we would like to not, if possible. Anybody else about fall tryouts?
Our system that we have in place is if we ever need to have a walk-on tryout, we would do it at the beginning of the fall. So if some things happened in the summer or someone couldn't attend or we still had a need that we didn't fill from recruiting, we would have a walk-on tryout in the fall.
Mark at Morehead?
I would hope that we wouldn't have to rely on that, but if we're all in uncharted territory with this virus this summer. So Normally after our tryouts, there's usually 15 or 16 major programs that have tryouts the same weekend that Morehead does. And there's always athletes that are kind of trying to find a home. And I occasionally will add some, if somebody's super talented and they fall in my lap, I will add them at times. So given the virus situation and everything that's going on, I wouldn't be surprised if that potentially happens, but I'm going to try to pick our team with the video tryouts. I may, especially if there's some people that we have a hard time deciding on, I might take one or two extra people just to see, because given the financial instability of the economy right now, and just I figure there's going to be some people that have the skills to be at Morehead, really want to be at Morehead, but maybe something happens financially and they can't go to college this fall. So I want to have a little bit of wiggle room there just in place with our numbers. So I wouldn't have a full tryout, but I would potentially add people afterwards. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah, no worries. And I agree with you, Mark. I think that's the same thing. I would hope to fill with our video process, selection process, over the next month or two. But, if need be, an extenuating circumstance, I feel like if there's something in the fall that we absolutely had to do because we needed to fill, then potentially it's possible, but I don't think that it's something that we would advertise.
Mm-hmm. All right, last question we'll take before we end the show here. This is from Jalen. Due to COVID-19, this is kind of the big fear we kind of had as coaches, is just, man, I'll send my video to 10 different schools, whatever, what is your feelings about, probably people sending their videos and trying out for multiple schools? Let's start with Mark on that.
It obviously is something that I'm not crazy about. If people, people like hedging their bets and applying or trying out at multiple schools. I'm actually in a coaches group chat with several other of the coaches from the state of Kentucky that we've all talked about this, because in some cases, we know athletes are like, well, this person's trying out for me, and I also know she's trying out for you. Are you going to take her, or what's she going to do? And so we've all just been trying to combat that by being as transparent as possible with each other and communicating with each other, so that we're all aware that there are these kids that are applying at different places. Obviously, I would love for someone to be like, I'm Morehead all the way, but I also understand, with the reputation that we have and how competitive it is, I figured that athletes have their plan A, their plan B, and their plan C, and now with these videos that they can do it much easier, because before that was one of the reasons why we gave bids to people, and we gave more bids than we needed, because there was no guarantee just because we gave somebody a bid that they were going to come to tryouts. And when Kentucky and Clemson and Texas Tech and Shelton and all these different schools, these great programs had tryouts the same weekend. The nice thing about that is when they showed up at your tryouts physically, you knew that they were committing to you. And so, and so you knew that, like, hey, if you're talented enough to try out at Morehead State University, you have a ton of options. Any of our programs, if you're talented enough for any of our programs, you have a ton of options. But if you're choosing to be at our program, then you're foregoing these other options. That spoke volumes. And so with this video process, we don't exactly have that. So it's definitely something to consider. Like I said, with some of the local coaches in this area, we've been communicating a little bit, because there's a tremendous amount of talent in Kentucky coming from the high schools, and a lot of these kids have a lot of options. And so we've been trying to communicate on some of the ones that we know. And we've even talked about like sharing, our deadline for registration isn't until tomorrow, but we'd even talked about sharing those lists with people. So, so we at least had an idea. So when we sit down to pick videos, and I know that this person, Sally, we'll call her, is trying out at school A, school B, and school C. And then I've got somebody here that I don't know that they're trying out at 3 schools. Maybe I'm going to take the person that I know is more committed to Morehead. If they're skill-wise, what are you? So,
actually, Ben, I was wondering for you. What are you ever in that? You're recruiting a kid. You've gone through the try, but they want to try out another school. Like, how do you handle that situation of a kid that you've recruited and you're going to offer a spot on Ohio State, but they want to try out school B also?
Yeah, we actually ran into that this year, and just like another letter of intent, that we do provide for people to sign, there's a deadline to it. So, we did have a couple people actually approach saying that they were also interested in trying out at another school. And this is before all of the COVID stuff happened. And we just kind of said that, we have a deadline and you're either going to kind of, meet that deadline or, try out at the other school.
Tony, you and I, obviously, we, have always a handful of kids who are looking at both our schools being in the same state and everything. And I think we do a pretty good job of communicating, to our kids, like, hey, if you want to go to Indiana, if you want to come to Purdue, come to Purdue. We're not all about the whole tryout thing. But kind of how are you handling the possibility of, the multiple videos going to multiple schools?
Yeah. It's very interesting because I think Mark hit it on the head is that I don't know if kids these days just think that coaches don't talk, but we know when people are trying out at multiple schools, whether you're telling us or not, and so it's obviously, we want them to be all into our specific university. One thing that we sell at Indiana is it's not really just about the cheerleading program. It's about, a great education, as we all have, that going for us. So, if they're getting into the school and making that commitment, that eases my mind a little bit more that they're gonna come to our school. But it's definitely not my preference for them to try out at multiple schools, but I understand why they do it, just to have a backup plan for sure, because you may be talented and come here and put all your chips in on IU and then get here and go through the process and you get cut, and then you don't have anything to do. And that's truthfully, whether at any of the schools that I've coached at, I've had those kids that I've found out about, in the summer, they've been cut from other programs, but they would fit the mold that I need for my specific team. And, I've pulled them on. So, it's definitely our preference for them to select a school, but, I get it. I think that the more I'm a pretty blunt and just say it how it is person. And, I tell athletes when they come to our clinics, just be real with me. Tell me if you're trying to decide between Ohio State, Purdue, and Morehead and Indiana, tell me that. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because I guarantee you, if you go through my process and it doesn't work out in your favor, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone to Steve or to Ben, to Mark, and say, hey, there's this kid, not the best tumbling, but exceptional partner stunts and could make a dent and help somebody, maybe not for the first year there. Maybe they're more of a game day type person, but, by their sophomore and junior year, they're going to be a rock star, So I think that goes a long ways for any of us coaches.
And I also think that every year is different. I know, like, Tony, you graduated a ton of seniors. I know that, where I only had 3 on my all-girl team. And I just needs are different every year for every program also,
That's it right there, Steve, is the needs are different. And I think that's one thing that I feel maybe like a public service announcement to parents and even high school coaches is that, just because one year a team might take, I'm going to use my team, for example, as a large co-ed team. One year we might take 4 top girls. The next year I might only take 1, just like a baseball team, might graduate their starting shortstop and their starting center fielder, they're going to have different needs. So I think with us going through the recruitment method, we're going to be recruiting for our needs. And every year that's going to be a little bit different. This year I only took 4 new females. Next year, and this year I only have 3 female seniors. Next year, my female senior class is going to be huge. So, the year after that, I'm going to be taking more people. So every year is a little bit different. It's not, every year we need 5 tops and this. And while you do, but there's still those people internally that, you're looking at if you're doing a tryout system or if you're recruiting.
Well, gentlemen, I just want to thank you all for being here today. I thought that it was very informative and very, very fun. I think that a lot of people got a lot of information about not only our program and kind of everything, but do you want us to talk about something? We hope to do this weekly or bi-weekly, and It could be different coaches. It could be different people, just depending on availability. But go ahead and email me, fulloutchats@gmail.com. If you have anything you want us to chat about, I will try to get some of the best people in the business, some coaches, people in the industry to just talk and just kind of go through some points of what we think is going on. So again, fulloutchats@gmail.com. Again, I want to thank Tony Nash of Indiana University, Mark Coleman at Morehead State University, and Ben Schreiber at the Ohio State University. 3 great guys, 3 good friends of mine. Thank you for joining us today. We're trying to keep it within an hour. I knew that was going to ultimately fail. But again, everybody, if you want to help,
only muted me twice.
Yeah, I only muted you twice. I know. But to help us out, if you could just subscribe to Full Out Chats here on YouTube, then you'll know when our next live show is. But we'll discuss that here. But hopefully do another one for you guys next week. But signing off, Steve Solberg here. Thank you again for joining Full Out Chats, Coach's Corner, and we hope to see you guys again next week. Thanks a lot. Stay healthy,
fellas.
Go Hoosiers.
Go Bucks.
Go Eagles.
We're up.